Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Knoteworthy. This is your gracious host, also known as Also Sexy to the ladies. And today we're checking out an interview I did a couple of years back with a wood sculptor named Phillip Robinson Jr. So sit back and check it out. He has some really good work and a really inspiring story. And I hope you enjoy it. If you do, like, comment, and subscribe. Yes, to start, you could tell me a little bit about yourself, your name, and where you're from.
Phillip A Robinson Jr. I was born in Harlem, New York. Moved to Teaneck, New Jersey when I was 2, and then grew up in Teaneck till I was about 25, and then moved to Jersey City, and that's where I currently reside.
Okay, cool. So, at that time when you were growing up, were you into art? What was the art scene kind of like in Jersey City?
I'm not sure what the scene was like in Jersey City growing up. We knew that growing up in Teaneck, there were places you didn't go growing up in the 90s, and Jersey City was one of them, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
I was always into art though, because my mother and my aunts would always take me to galleries and museums. So one of the things my aunt always likes to bring up is she'll say, you used to point at things on the wall and be like, why is that art? Why is that here, like in these, galleries? I think that also prompted me into trying to have a better understanding of like why things put in the position they are. Like, who says that this is fine art? Who says that this person is supposed to be the person that we're supposed to look up to, right? So I was already making those challenges through, the mass media streams, even at a young age. So even though I was, growing up in Teaneck, in the suburbs, I was always in the city. Always, going to see galleries, exhibitions, music, dance, all art forms.
Okay. So, when you were in high school, or even younger than that, were you getting into the arts yourself, or were you just kind of like checking it out? Were you creating it? Like, were you in talent shows at that time or no?
So my father, who still is an electrician, loved working with his hands. So I kind of gravitated towards that, just like building things. I was always building things. So if I had a project doing English, I was doing a paper plus some sculpture, right? If I was in social studies, I was building maps out of clay and foam and stuff, and then handing that in along with the essay. So it was always another component I was trying to give the work. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize mentally until my junior year in high school that I actually was an artist. I was pretty good at this. I like doing it. I want to pursue it. So my mom, who was a professor at Sarah Lawrence College, she put me into a ton of programs, summer programs. And one of which was the Putney School up in Vermont, which is basically an area that you stay for a couple of months and you just do work. You really, dive into all the stuff. So I was doing metal work there, I was doing ceramics work there. And that's where I really got the idea of, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do metal, I wanted to do ceramics. And I wanted to play soccer. So I wound up looking at all the schools that had all three. And I chose Skidmore College for my undergraduate work, where I really focused on ceramics and metal.
Okay. So, did you ever pursue that? Like, once you finished school, did you pursue working with metal or ceramics? Like, what kind of things were you making also?
Yeah, so
when I think of ceramics, I think of like flower pots mostly.
Yeah.
So
in high school, I was making these large vessels.
Okay.
I didn't really understand why I was making them. I like putting them together. We didn't have a wheel, so I was doing it all by hand, all these huge pots. And so when I got to undergraduate at Skidmore, a lot of people were using the wheel, and I found the wheel to be extremely difficult for me. I could not master how to, pull up these pieces. And two of my friends at the time were doing these huge vessels on the wheels. I'm talking like, 4-foot vessels, throwing things together, building it up. If you ever see someone on the wheel, like all their hands are in here, they're pulling up these huge masses of clay. Your muscles have to be, I couldn't do it. So instead of getting frustrated, I wound up turning towards metal. And so that's that switch where I was really into ceramics, couldn't do what I wanted to do, had to find another medium to do it in, and then switch to ceramics. When I graduated from undergrad, I didn't have a metal smith, I didn't have a plasma cutter or anything like that. So when I was looking at graduate schools, I was trying to find schools for that. And in the midst of trying to find the right school, my mother passed. So I went from like not really wanting to, not unsure if I was going to go to graduate school or not, to like, you know what, I'm not doing anything. I went through a huge downfall of depression when she passed. It was just me and her. And
you weren't close with your dad at the time?
No, I wasn't. We had grown distant. I would see him on the weekends and stuff like that, but then even then, we just kept bumping heads and we just didn't connect. One of the things my mother said was that graduate school is not like undergrad, right? Graduate school is where you get to focus strictly on what it is you want to do. So you don't have to worry about all the other stuff, it's just solely on your stuff. So I had that in the back of my mind. And then in talking with my aunt, she was saying, look, I think you really need to pursue that. Your mom wanted you to do it. I think it'd be good for you. I think I want to set you up with this meeting with this person, and we'll go for it. The meeting that happened was with Deborah Willis Thomas, who is a pivotal figure in African American photography. She is currently the head of the photography center at NYU, and her son Hank Willis Thomas is a very prolific sculptor and photographer in his own right. So I wound up having a meeting with her. She saw my portfolio. She talked to me a little bit about what I wanted to do, what would I do if I did go to graduate school, and asked me the schools that I was looking at. And one of the schools I was looking at was Mason Gross. And so she said, look, I got a connection at Mason Gross, see if I'll get you in for an interview. So go to interview with Mason Gross. That interview happened to be with Emma Amos, who is also an amazing painter, very well known. She just had a piece at the Whitney. Actually, I think the piece is currently still at the Whitney Museum. And she was her last year, she was actually on her way out. So she was like, look, before I get out of here, there's not enough people of color in here, I'm getting you in. I was like, all right, cool. She's like, but you gotta go through the director. And the director was a woman named Lauren Ewing. I believe that was her name, Lauren Ewing, who is a very famous artist in her own right as well, and actually a Skidmore alum. And so she saw Skidmore, she's like, Skidmore alum, good to see you over here. She's looking through my transcripts. She's like, so you got a D in art history, and you failed art history. I said, yeah. She's like, what happened? I'm not good with dates, times. You know, I'm trying to memorize all that stuff. I'm horrible at that. I'm being honest, like I can't do it. She's like, look, if I let you in, obviously you're getting in on your merit, but if you're getting in, you gotta take an art history course. Long story short, I take the art history course. I aced the course because, at that point, I had nothing left. That's the only thing stopping me from getting my degree. I'm gonna just go all in and do it, right? So, wound up acing the course, and then really specialized in metal at my time in graduate school. So that's kind of a small precursor of the timeline to get me where I'm at now.
Okay.
A little side note of that is that when I got out of graduate school, I didn't have tools. I didn't have a plasma cutter, I didn't have a welder, acetylene torch, none of that. So I had to find another medium that I could use that still fit within what I was working on. So I wound up focusing on wood. People ask me, did you do wood when you were in undergrad? And I'm like, not really. A lot of stuff that you see is all self-taught. I'm classically trained from undergraduate to graduate school, But in terms of the wood itself and trying to learn its nuances, it's really just self-taught.
I want to go back a little bit to your childhood and your mom. What do you think? Why do you think your mom wanted you to pursue art? I know you enjoyed it, but most parents might say that, especially most black parents, or the kids are black, they're like, we don't necessarily see a lot of black people doing this type of art. We don't know where it's gonna go. I'm gonna talk about your when you had the showing in Queensbridge.
Right.
And I remember standing outside, and the kids were like, "Man, what is this shit?" And I was thinking, I was like, "Man, like, I remember when I was that age and I was struggling. I was so far removed from what art could be, what it could mean to you, how it could make you feel, like, or it being something that you could pursue as a career, I don't know anybody whose parents encouraged them to pursue art. What do you think? Why do you think your mom encouraged you to pursue it rather than pursuing something like being a lawyer or a teacher per se, or something like that we might traditionally see people doing?
So, a couple layers to that.
Okay.
My mother was a college professor. She loved working with children. She taught sociology and crime and deviance. She worked a lot with women in prison, and she was really deep in psychology. You take that knowledge and then the understanding that she always wanted, whoever it was, wanted to bring out your strengths, right? And so she was uncontrollably gifted and talented in the sense that she could see what it is you love to do and then kind of push and prod it, right? Without you knowing that that's what it is she's trying to get at. She saw from a young age things that I loved, and so she would do everything that she could to help promote that. My father wasn't around, right? So it was just me and her. They divorced when I was 5. So it was really, I had a lot of anger, right? A lot of aggression, and didn't really know how to deal with that. Growing up, I had a head full of curls, light skin, growing up in the suburbs. People, used to make fun of me. I was not popular. I had a hard time growing up. And so for her, as my mom, she wanted to give me things that would help lift me up, to strengthen me, instead of trying to bring me down. So I love sports, but I also like soccer. So she really pushed the soccer, and you imagine, African-American kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, soccer is not really the thing that we're looking at. Everyone's looking at me playing basketball, which I did. I love basketball. Yeah. I also like soccer, you know what I mean? So she was pushing me on that. I loved animals. I loved going to pet shops and, just having animals around. So she let me have animals. I had 27 animals at one point. And everyone thought I was going to be a vet. Everyone was like, oh, he's going to be a veterinarian. And she was like, maybe. I don't know. She just kept on feeding me these things. And so when she saw that I really started moving away from the veterinary stuff, because I wound up not having a very good biology teacher, it really threw me off. Mm-hmm. And moving more towards the art, she all right, you want to try the summer program? I think it'd be good for you. All right, I'll try it, see what's going on. Something that really sticks out was that when my mom found out that she had cancer, instead of her really going into it, she asked me if I wanted to try art therapy, as something to pursue. I said, I don't really know if I want to do that. She's like, there's an opening at Hackensack Hospital. I think it would be something I should check out. And so I wound up becoming an art therapist for these kids, where during the day, we would deal with the kids that were getting all the porta casts and things in their arms, and just talking with them, doing art with them. In the afternoons, you would go up to what they call 10th and Conklin, which are the kids that are the inpatients that are there for months at a time. They're losing their hair, their fingernails are turning dark, all from the treatments. And I didn't realize it until a couple years later that my mother in all her wisdom had put me in that program, not just for the art, but also to prepare me for what she was going to have to go through when she started losing her hair and her fingernails started turning, you know? So it wasn't such a shock to me when these things were happening. So that's kind of a, you know, a little hint into, you know, her intellect. She was amazingly in tune with what a person needs and what they wanted, and also in tune with what she lacked. You know, she loved teaching, she loved working with kids, but her real love was writing, and she wrote all the way up until the time that she passed. So, you know, seeing that that was something that she had missed, she didn't want her son to miss out on something that he would have loved to do either. And one of the things she always said to me was that to always follow your passion. She always said that you know, you have to follow your passion, otherwise, you know, it just won't work. The money will come, right? If it's a money issue, the money will come. You have to be able to follow what you want to do. And you gotta, like, you know, you gotta try everything, right?
Yeah, definitely.
If you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
But at least you tried it. You know what I mean? Instruments, art, swimming, bike. But also, I think, and especially now being a teacher, it's also important to teach the business aspect of it, right? Like my father always says, and by the way, going back, even though my father went close, when my mother passed, we became extremely close. And we're very close now to this day.
Well, I did want to ask you about business.
Yeah.
So hold on for that. So, all right, coming out of school, when did you immediately start to pursue art full time, or did that come later, or like what was the process to you getting to where you're at right now, to being an artist, you know, instead of it just being a hobby, something that you're pursuing professionally, making it a career. What was your process to get in there? When was the moment that you decided that this is what you were going to do specifically?
I realized I had something to say, and people were listening to what I was saying. And as a competitor, an athlete, and seeing what was out there currently, I could also see what was missing, right? What was needed. And what I found is that I was good at what I was doing. People liked what I was doing. And I knew that there was money for it. Money's not the driving aspect for me, but in seeing what else is out there and seeing the money that's out there, there's no reason why I can't be in that conversation, you know? The work that I'm doing now and before, especially with a couple of the series, the Untitled Faces series and this piece here, The Rebirth of Venus. Super important in terms of the aesthetic, where it's coming from, and a place for people like us to be noticed, right? Like the same thing you're saying when we were over at the gallery of Queens with the kids, saying like, what is this, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's have that conversation, right? Let me tell you exactly what this is, because you're seeing somebody that's tall, right? That's athletically built. So you're automatically thinking a certain way, right? But let me tell you this other way. Let me tell you another way to look, right? And then sometimes, you know, I can't work, but sometimes I got a suit and tie on, you know, let's have that conversation. You know, yeah, I like cars, I like things. I also like wealth. I also like to, you know, bank accounts, you know, just certain things that, you know, you not normally would see in people. So I I've always wanted to give back, and I think through my artwork, I'm able to do that in a sense.
Okay.
And just seeing, you know, the reaction from it, and wanting to, again, be part of that conversation that a lot of my peers that are really, you know, that are in the Whitney Biennial, that are in residency programs, that are in magazines and content, and celebrities are buying their work. Like I definitely feel like I need to be part of that conversation.
Okay. And in terms of being in a gallery, what are the benefits for you as an artist in terms of having maybe your own studio or having a residency? What sort of benefits do you think that offers you?
Visibility. 100% visibility. Just not enough people seeing my work. When I got out of graduate school, I had the huge opportunity to be part of an exhibition at the Rush Fine Arts Gallery in Chelsea. Great visibility. A ton of people saw the work. I actually had one of my pieces on the front cover. What's great now is that, you know, I've got a show every month. So people are seeing that. Instagram, huge benchmark for, especially for artists, for people seeing work. You know, I could post something now and get, you know, 200, 400 views and growing. You know, people constantly be looking for that. Website is great, but, you know, through social media, kind of changed the game with that. But being able to have a residency in the city where people can come see the work, I can post anytime. I can bring, you know, a collector or a curator or a gallery owner in here to see this work being done. It's a game changer for me, especially at this point in my artistic career.
Oh, okay.